For 400 years, they were slaves in Egypt, forgotten, outnumbered, afraid. Then one man heard a voice in the fire, Moses. He stood before Pharaoh and said the 4 words that changed history.
Let my people go.
Plagues fell, hearts hardened, and on the night of Passover, a nation walked out of darkness. They would face a desert, an army, an impossible sea. This is Exodus. Story 14. Israelites enslaved in Egypt. Picture this, over 3,000 years ago, in the land of Egypt, the Nile floods, pyramids rise, and a whole nation of people, the Israelites, are trapped, not as guests, but as slaves. This isn't just ancient history, it's a story about power, faith, and what happens when hope refuses to die. It started well. The Israelites came to Egypt during a famine. One of their own, Joseph, had risen to second in command to Pharaoh and saved the country. His family was welcomed. They grew from 70 people to hundreds of thousands. But time passed. A new Pharaoh came to power, one who didn't remember Joseph.
Look, the Israelites have become too many and too mighty for us. We must deal shrewdly with them, or they will join our enemies and fight against us.
So Egypt turned them into slaves, men making bricks in the sun, women carrying water. They were forced to build cities like Pithom and Ramses, brick after brick, under brutal taskmasters. Pharaoh even ordered every newborn Israelite boy thrown into the Nile, hoping to break their spirit. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied. Pain didn't erase them, it forged them. After generations of suffering, the Israelites cried out, and according to the story, God heard. A baby rescued from the Nile, Moses, would grow up in Pharaoh's own palace, then flee to the desert. There, he'd encounter a burning bush and a calling.
Go, tell Pharaoh, let my people go.
What followed was a clash of wills, a stubborn king, 10 devastating plagues, and a nation learning that freedom has a price. The slavery of the Israelites isn't just about the past. For millions, it became the blueprint for liberation. The Passover story, the idea that no empire lasts forever, and no people are forgotten. From bricks without straw, to a journey toward a promised land, that's where the Exodus begins. Story 15. The birth of Moses. Imagine a kingdom where fear ruled from the throne. In ancient Egypt, Pharaoh had just issued a terrifying command. Every Hebrew baby boy must be thrown into the Nile River. Why? Because the Israelites had grown too numerous, and Pharaoh was afraid they'd rise up against him. In that darkness, one family dared to hope, and one baby's cry would change history. A Levite couple, Amram and Jochebed, had just welcomed a son. But this was no ordinary birth. It was a birth under a death sentence. For 3 months, Jochebed hid her baby. Scripture says she saw that he was a fine child. Some translations say beautiful or special. She saw something in him worth risking everything for. When she could hide him no longer, she didn't give up. She got creative. She wove a basket from papyrus reeds, sealed it with tar and pitch to make it waterproof, and placed her baby inside. Then, with a prayer and a trembling heart, she set that basket among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. The baby wasn't alone. His sister, Miriam, stood at a distance to see what would happen. And what happened next was nothing short of providence. Pharaoh's own daughter came down to the Nile to bathe. She spotted the basket. When she opened it, the baby was crying, and her heart melted.
"This is one of the Hebrew babies,"
she said. But instead of following her father's cruel law, she had compassion. This is where Miriam steps in. Brilliant move. She approaches and asks,
"Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?"
Pharaoh's daughter says yes. So who does Miriam get? Their mother, Jochebed. The baby's own mom gets paid to nurse and raise her son, protected by the princess herself. When the child grew older, Jochebed brought him back to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her son. She named him Moses, saying,
"I drew him out for the water."
The name itself was a prophecy, because this child drawn from the Nile would one day draw an entire nation out of slavery. So in one story we have a tyrant's fear, a mother's courage, a sister's quick thinking, and a princess's compassion, all of it woven together to preserve the life of the baby, who would become the deliverer of Israel. The story of Moses' birth reminds us Even when the world feels controlled by power and fear, courage and compassion can still make a way. Sometimes, deliverance starts with a basket, a river, and a mother who refuses to give up. Story 15. Moses, from the Nile to the palace. The Nile River was both a cradle and a threat. Pharaoh had ordered every Hebrew baby boy thrown into its waters, but one mother, Jochebed, refused. She hid her son for 3 months, then placed him in a papyrus basket, waterproofed with tar and pitch. His sister Miriam watched from the reeds, as the basket drifted straight toward danger and mercy. Pharaoh's daughter came to bathe. She saw the basket, opened it, and found a crying Hebrew baby. Her heart melted. She said,
"This is one of the Hebrew children."
Miriam stepped forward.
"Shall I find a Hebrew woman to nurse him for you?"
The princess agreed. In a twist only God could write, Moses' own mother was paid to nurse her son. Jochebed raised him, through his toddler years, teaching him who he was, a Hebrew, a child of promise, belonging to the God of Abraham. Then came the day she had to let go. She brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, meaning drawn out, because she drew him out of the water. So Moses grew up as a prince of Egypt. He learned to read hieroglyphs, and learned to ride chariots, to command soldiers. He walked palace halls lined with gold, ate from royal tables, and was educated in all the wisdom of Egypt. To the world, he was Egyptian nobility, yet in his blood and in his earliest memories, he was Hebrew. Moses lived with a split identity. By day, he wore Egyptian linen and a royal braid, but at night, he remembered lullabies in Hebrew, and the stories of a God who promised freedom. When he was about 40, Moses went out to see his people. He watched them bent under the whip, making bricks for Pharaoh's cities. The injustice burned. One day he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave. Looking around and seeing no one, Moses struck the Egyptian down and hid him in the sand. He thought his people would understand that he was choosing them. But the next day, he tried to break up a fight between 2 Hebrews.
"Who made you a prince and judge over us?"
One said,
"Will you kill me like you killed the Egyptian?"
His secret was out. When Pharaoh heard, he tried to kill Moses. So the prince of Egypt ran. He fled across the desert to Midian, trading palace luxury for a shepherd's staff. Moses thought his story was over. Rescued from the Nile as a baby, raised in a palace, now a fugitive in the wilderness. But he didn't know this was just the middle of the story, because in Midian, at a burning bush, God would call the man, drawn out of water, to draw a whole nation out of slavery. Story 16. Moses and the burning bush. 40 years after fleeing Egypt, Moses is a shepherd in the desert of Midian. He's left his royal past behind. His life is quiet, ordinary, until one day on Mount Horeb, the mountain of God, Moses spots something strange off the path, a bush engulfed in flames. But it doesn't burn up. The leaves aren't turning to ash. The branches aren't crumbling.
"What is this? I have to see this great sight. Why isn't the bush burning up?"
Moses, Moses,
"Here I am."
do not come closer. Take off your sandals, for the place you are standing is holy ground. I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Moses hides his face, afraid to look at God.
I have seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers. I am concerned about their suffering, so I have come down to rescue them and bring them to a good land, flowing with milk and honey. Now, Moses, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt.
Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, that I should bring the Israelites out of Egypt?
I will be with you, and this will be the sign. When you have brought the people out, you will worship God on this mountain.
Suppose I go and they ask me, "What is his name?" What should I tell them?
I am who I am. Tell them I am has sent you. This is my name forever, the name you shall call me for all generations.
What if they don't believe me or listen to me? I'm not good with words. I'm slow of speech.
Who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak, and will teach you what to say.
God gives Moses 3 signs: a staff that becomes a snake, a hand that turns leprous and is healed, and water from the Nile that turns to blood. And he sends Aaron, Moses' brother, to speak with him.
I will be with your mouth and with his mouth. I will teach you both what to do.
So Moses, the shepherd with a past, becomes the deliverer with a purpose. Because God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called, even through a bush that burns, but is not consumed. Story 17. Moses returns, "Let my people go." After the burning bush, Moses isn't the same man. God said,
I will be with you.
Now he's carrying a staff, a promise, and a lot of fear. First stop, the Israelite elders. Moses is expecting doubt. Instead, he gets worship.
The Lord has seen your misery. He's heard your cries. He's come to rescue you.
Aaron's staff drops, becomes a snake, then staff again. Moses' hand turns leprous, then heals. When the people see the signs, they believe. They bow down and worship God. Hope is alive, but it's about to get harder. Next stop, Pharaoh's palace, the most powerful man on earth.
This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says.
Let my people go, so they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness.
Who is the Lord, that I should obey him and let Israel go? I don't know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go.
Pharaoh ordered his soldiers.
These people are lazy. From now on, no straw for bricks. Let them gather it themselves. Same quota, more work.
The plan backfires. Instead of freedom, the Israelites get crushed.
May the Lord judge you. You've made us stink to Pharaoh. You've put a sword in his hand to kill us.
Lord, why have you brought trouble on this people? Why did you send me? Ever since I spoke to Pharaoh, he's made it worse. You haven't rescued them at all.
God answers,
Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. Because of my mighty hand, he will let them go. I am the Lord. I will free you. I will redeem you. I will take you as my own.
Moses learned fast. Obedience doesn't mean instant victory. Sometimes things get worse before God makes them better. But the story wasn't over. Pharaoh said no. God was just getting started. Next up, the plagues. Story 18. The 10 Plagues of Egypt. In ancient Egypt, the Israelites were slaves under Pharaoh. God sent Moses to demand, "Let my people go." Pharaoh refused. So God sent 10 plagues, escalating warnings, to break Pharaoh's stubbornness and free the Israelites. Each one struck at Egypt's gods, economy, and pride. 1. Water to blood. The Nile turned to blood. Fish died. Egyptians couldn't drink. Their river god, Happy, was powerless. 2. Frogs. Frogs swarmed from the Nile into homes, beds, ovens, everywhere. Hecate, the frog goddess, couldn't stop it. 3. Gnats, lice. Dust became gnats that tormented people and animals. Even Pharaoh's magicians said, "This is the finger of God." But Pharaoh's heart stayed hard. 4. Flies. Swarms of flies filled Egypt. But God spared Goshen where Israelites lived, a clear division. 5. Livestock disease. Egyptian cattle, horses, and sheep died in the fields. Yet Israelite livestock lived. 6. Boils. Painful sores broke out on people and animals. Not even Pharaoh's magicians could stand before Moses. Still, Pharaoh refused. 7. Hail. Thunder, fire, and hail destroyed crops, and anyone outside dead. Some Egyptians who feared God sheltered inside and were saved. 8. Locusts. Swarms devoured every plant the hail left. Nothing green remained in Egypt. Pharaoh said sorry, but then changed his mind. 9. Darkness. For 3 days, Egypt was covered in darkness, so thick you could feel it, but Israelites had light in their homes. 10. Death of the firstborn. God's final warning. Every firstborn Egyptian son would die, from Pharaoh's heir to a prisoner's child. But God gave Israelites instructions. Sacrifice a lamb, paint its blood on the doorposts. When the destroyer saw the blood, he would pass over that house. At midnight, it happened. Egypt woke to wailing. Pharaoh finally broke.
Go! Leave! Take everything!
That night, the Exodus began. the Israelites walked free after 400 years of slavery. The 10 plagues weren't just punishment, they showed God's power over Egypt's gods and his protection of his people. Jews still remember it every year at Passover. It's a story of justice, freedom, and what happens when power ignores mercy. Beat. Pharaoh said no 9 times, but in the 10th time, Egypt said goodbye. Story 19. Moses and the parting of the Red Sea. After 400 years of slavery, the Israelites were finally free. Led by Moses, they fled Egypt, but now they were trapped. In front of them, the Red Sea, vast and uncrossable. Behind them, the thunder of Pharaoh's chariots, 600 war chariots, closing fast.
We're going to die. Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert?
Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today.
As night fell, God moved. The pillar of cloud that led them moved behind them, standing between the Israelites and the Egyptians. To one side it gave light, to the other, darkness. All night, neither army could advance. Then God spoke to Moses.
Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground.
So Moses turned to the sea. The wind was howling. The people were watching. He raised his staff and stretched his hand out over the water. All that night, a strong east wind drove the sea back, and the waters parted. They didn't just recede, they stood up, walls of water, towering to the left and to the right, and between them, a path of dry ground.
Mama, look.
And so the Israelites walked, men, women, children, with all they owned, through the sea, on dry land, with a wall of water on their right and on their left. All night they crossed, thousands of them, as the pillar of cloud held the Egyptians back. When morning came, the Egyptians pursued them. Pharaoh's chariots charged down the same path, into the middle of the sea, but God threw the Egyptian army into confusion. He jammed the wheels of their chariots, so they could hardly drive.
Let's get away from the Israelites. The Lord is fighting for them.
Then God said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea again." Moses did, and the sea went back to its place. It covered the chariots, the horsemen, Pharaoh's entire army. Not one of them survived. When the Israelites saw the mighty hand of the Lord, they feared the Lord and put their trust in him, and in Moses his servant. And on that shore, they sang. Story 20. Manna and the quail in the wilderness. Imagine this, 2 million people, in the middle of a desert. No grocery stores, no Uber Eats, just sand, heat, and empty stomachs. 6 weeks after leaving slavery in Egypt, the Israelites hit a wall. They're hungry, really hungry, and scared.
We were better off in Egypt. At least we had pots of meat and bread there.
They start complaining to Moses, loudly, but God hears them. God tells Moses,
I've heard them. I'm going to rain bread from heaven for you.
But there's a test. Each day, they can only gather enough for that day, except the 6th day. Then they gather double, because the 7th day is Sabbath, a day of rest. That evening, it starts. Quail cover the camp, meat for dinner. Everyone eats.
Where did all these birds come from?
Then morning comes. The ground is covered in thin flakes, like frost.
What is it?
This is the bread the Lord has given you to eat. The people called it manna, which literally means, what is it?
It tasted like wafers made with honey, and it came every morning for 40 years. But here's the rule. Take only what you need for today. Some people didn't listen. They tried to stockpile it. By morning, it was full of maggots and stank. You couldn't hoard it. But on Friday, when they gathered double, it didn't spoil. It kept perfectly for Sabbath. God was teaching them something. Trust me one day at a time. Don't worry about tomorrow's bread today. I'll provide again tomorrow.
I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry.
Manna was more than food. It was a daily reminder. God sees. God provides. God is enough. We all have wilderness seasons, seasons where resources feel thin, where the future feels uncertain. The story of manna and quail asks us, can you trust for today? Not for next month, not for next year, just today. Because the same God, who fed 2 million people in a desert, still provides, sometimes with quail, sometimes with what is it moments, but always right on time. What's your daily bread today? Story 21. The 10 Commandments at Mount Sinai. After escaping slavery in Egypt, the Israelites have been traveling through the desert for 3 months. They arrive at the foot of a massive mountain, Mount Sinai. Thunder rolls. The mountain trembles. God tells Moses,
I am going to come to you in a dense cloud, so that people will hear me speak with you.
Something world-changing is about to happen. God gives Moses instructions. The people must prepare for 3 days. They wash their clothes. They set boundaries around the mountain. No one is allowed to touch it, or even get close. On the morning of the 3rd day, the sky cracks open. There's lightning, thick smoke, and the sound of a trumpet getting louder and louder. The whole mountain shakes violently. The people at the camp tremble in fear. Moses goes up to meet God in the fire and smoke. Then God speaks, not just to Moses, but so all the people can hear. His voice thunders across the camp with the 10 Commandments.
I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of slavery. 1. You shall have no other gods before me. 2. You shall not make idols. 3. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. 4. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 5. Honor your father and your mother. 6. You shall not murder. 7. You shall not commit adultery. 8. You shall not steal. 9. You shall not give false testimony. 10. You shall not covet.
The people are overwhelmed. They tell Moses,
Speak to us yourself, and we will listen. But do not have God speak to us, or we will die.
Do not be afraid. God has come to test you, so that the fear of him will keep you from sinning.
While the mountain still smokes, Moses goes back up into the thick darkness where God is. There, God gives him the laws written onto stone tablets, written by the finger of God himself. The 10 Commandments weren't just rules. They were a covenant, an agreement. The first 4 commands focus on our relationship with God, loyalty, worship, respect, and rest. The last 6 focus on our relationship with each other, family, life, marriage, property, truth, and contentment. At Sinai, a group of former slaves became a nation with a moral foundation. It was the moment law, freedom, and responsibility were tied together. From fire and thunder on a desert mountain came words that would shape history, not just for Israel, but for the world. The 10 Commandments at Mount Sinai. Story 22. Golden Calf. Moses had led the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt. Now they camped at the foot of Mount Sinai, free but afraid. God called Moses up the mountain. For 40 days and 40 nights, Moses was gone, receiving the law, the 10 Commandments etched in stone. Down below, the people waited, and then they started to panic.
Moses is gone, that man who brought us out of Egypt. We don't know what happened to him.
Give us a God who will go before us.
They went to Aaron, Moses' brother, the one left in charge.
Make us gods we can see.
Take off your gold earrings, all of you, your wives, your sons and daughters, and bring them to me.
Aaron took the gold, melted it in the fire, and molded it. When it cooled, it was a calf, a golden calf, like the gods of Egypt they had just left behind.
These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt.
The people bowed down. They feasted. They danced. They traded the invisible God, who freed them, for something they could touch. Up on the mountain, God told Moses,
Go down. Your people have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly.
Moses came down carrying the 2 stone tablets. He heard music and shouting from the camp. Then he saw it. The calf, the dancing, the revelry, in anger and grief. Moses threw the tablets down at the foot of the mountain, shattering them.
Aaron, what did these people do to you, that you led them into such great sin?
Do not be angry. You know how prone these people are to evil. They gave me gold. I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf.
Moses took the golden calf, burned it in the fire, ground it to powder, scattered it in the water, and made the Israelites drink it.
Whoever is for the Lord, come to me.
It was a reckoning. The covenant was broken, but not ended. Moses went back up the mountain and pleaded for his people.
Forgive their sin. If not, blot me out too.
God forgave them and renewed the covenant. Moses came down again with 2 new tablets, his face shining from being in God's presence. The story of the golden calf isn't just about an idol made of gold. It's about what we do when we get impatient, when we get scared, and try to make God into something small, enough for us to control. Story 23. A tent for God, the tabernacle built. They have just walked out of Egypt. They are free, but they are homeless. Moses goes up the mountain, and he comes down with more than commandments. He comes down with a blueprint. God says,
"Make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them."
Not a palace of stone, a tent, portable, because this God intends to travel. He gives the specs like an architect. Acacia wood overlaid with pure gold, 10 curtains of fine linen, blue and purple and scarlet, woven with cherubim. Inside, an ark for the tablets, a table for bread, a lampstand hammered from 1 talent of gold. Outside, a bronze altar, a basin for washing, a courtyard of linen walls. Every material preaches gold for kingship, linen for purity, blue for heaven pulled low to earth. Then Moses does something odd. He does not levy a tax. He says,
"Take an offering from everyone whose heart moves him."
And they come. Earrings, armlets, spun goat hair, dyed ram skins, acacia logs, olive oil, spices. The women who spin, spin. The men who carve, carve. They bring so much that Moses has to tell them, stop. God names the foreman, Bezalel of Judah, filled, the text says, with the Spirit of God, with wisdom and skill in every craft. Oholiab of Dan, to teach beside him. They are not priests. They are artists. This is the first time workmanship is called holy. For months they build in the shadow of the mountain. The ark with its mercy seat, 2 cherubim facing each other, the menorah like an almond tree in bloom, light on 7 branches, the veil, thick, that separates the holy place from the most holy. Everything is designed to move, rings and poles on the ark, the table, the altars, no wheels, only shoulders. Levites will carry the presence when the cloud lifts. On the first day of the first month, a year after the Exodus, Moses raises it. He sets the bases, hangs the curtains, places each vessel, anoints it all with oil. Then, without a hammer stroke, the work is finished by God. A cloud covers the tent. The glory fills the tabernacle so heavily that Moses cannot enter. From that day, Israel learns a new rhythm. When the cloud lifts, they pull up stakes and follow. When the cloud settles, they camp. God is no longer only on the mountain. He is in the middle of the camp, in a tent made by human hands. That is the story of the tabernacle. Not just ancient furniture, but a promise sewn into cloth and wood. Heaven wants to live with people, even while they are still in the wilderness. Exodus is the Hebrew word for the way out. It's the story of Israel leaving Egypt. But it's also the pattern for every Exodus we face. From fear to faith, from slavery to identity, from Egypt to promise. It starts with a cry, continues through water, and is sustained in the wilderness. The way out is just the start. Exodus 14:14. The Lord will fight for you. Save this for your wilderness season.